Today we have Birgit Pauli Haack, and she is going to present on data cleanup using Google Sheets. Birgit has been working with nonprofit organizations on database handling and website development and design and tech and training since 1998. And she's the owner of Pauli Systems. And with her team of designers, developers, sysadmins, and database professionals, she helps nonprofits to reach out to donors and members and other supporters through an optimized digital presence and provides integration between websites and CRMs. So with that, I will turn it over to Birgit.
Well, thank you so much, Joy. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you for all attending this session. We don't have enough time, a lot of time today, so I'm going to share my screen and we dive right in. And what you also see is that on the slide deck, you see on every page the link to the online version of it. So feel free to check it out afterwards. Questions, please, till the end. And now let's go and tackle the Google Sheets and your data cleanup. Data cleanup with Google Sheets is definitely a skill to learn, and it comes quite handy in a lot of data manipulations situations, not only just the data cleanup, but every time you're using CSV files and want to do something else with it, you could use Google Sheets for that. So some of the things that I show you is equivalent to Excel, so it's not a wasted skill. You can use it in any of them. It might just be a little bit a different word or a different function call or something like that, but you can look that up then later. Okay, so what will you learn today? I have for you 10 use cases for data manipulation with Google Sheets, and we talk about split, proper, join, switch, ifs, concatenate, left, rand between, and how to hide columns and how to bulk copy formulas. The first one is this data, and most of the data comes from a real life example or real life examples that we deal with, and I picked some out. So the first case is that you get the CSV file, you load it up and see it in Google Sheet, and you see that the first name is actually has for couples the first name of both couples in there in one field, and your CRM doesn't like that very much. It helps you with, it gives you all kind of different problems. So first we learn about the split function, and this definitely one of the most used functions. You have a text, and when it says text, it means it's the cell that you're pointing at, like the C3 in the example. And we have the delimiter of those two things, and then the delimiter is and with a space in between. And because we don't want to cut it up after the A, nor not after the N or the D, we just want it kind of after the whole word. So, and what you do is you need two more columns, because all of a sudden you have two fields additional. You have the first name and the spouse's name. So you add two columns, and then you put that formula into the field of, and then it will split out the spouse name next to it. So that's fairly easy, and it gets you at least somewhere to get the first name cleaned up. In the same data set, we also found the second use case is multiple address formats. Right now, and just ignore that it's all in one field right now, we're gonna talk about it later, but we have small letters, we have all caps, we have different spellings, and for me, that needs to be cleaned up either in one consistent way. And I introduced it to my favorite function, that is proper, gives you proper case. It's actually title case that it does. It will return every first letter of each word will be uppercase, all the other letters will be lowercase. The relative function related to that function is also lower and upper. If you are not like me, that you don't like uppercase, you actually favor it. You would say, okay, if you have mixed case, you would just wrap it up in an upper function and then have another column with the right formatting. So you get the principle is that you have an empty column, you have a column that needs to be changed, you open up another column, and then you apply the formula, and it makes a copy, but it's a right copy. Yeah, like here, the address in number 7 is now title case. In number 6, in row 6, Tallahassee, all caps, is now also a title case. So that's another set of that. So split and proper. Now let's deal with the all-in-one address. And you already learned one function. It's called split. Let's try and apply it here too. So we need additional 4 columns in that, for the address, for the city, for the state, and for the zip code. And they are all seem to be delimited by a comma, so that will be our delimiter where to split. And that's how the function lives. It's split, and then AC2, that's this column. AC2 is the second row, and then use the delimiter of comma, and then do it for all occurrences. And that gives us the address line here, the city in one column, and then we also have the state and the zip code. And you see there is some additional things to do, because for some of the addresses, Iowa and the zip code were not separated by a comma, so it didn't catch it. And we can do a second pass at it and split up the zip code. Again, you need to do 2 additional columns, and then you do another split, the split AG2, that's this one here, and then divide by, not by comma, but by space. And then you get it into columns again. Yeah. But when we did the split for the state and the zip code, we didn't provide for a 2-word state. And we have a lot of them. You have North Carolina, South Carolina, New York, New Jersey. They're all 2-word states. So you want to kind of do you want to do the opposite of it, but you need another column for it, the opposite of it, and combine those 2. And that is the join function, and concatenates the elements of one or more one-dimensional list, array equals list, using a specified delimiter. And that looks like this. We join the 2 columns again and put a space in between. Yeah. So the 2 columns, AG to AJ, AI to AJ, and then a space in between. And then we have the state name, and that's the end of the state part. But we also saw, so what you see, and you see it on this screen as well, is we have 3 columns with different zip codes. Some of them are empty, some of them are things in there, then we have the combination. But let's first figure out something else. We saw here, there is Florida and GA instead of Florida and Georgia. Let's do that, and I introduce you to the switch function, which means tests an expression. An expression is a cell, that cell that you can point to, against a list of cases, and returns the corresponding value of the first matching case. So for this case, we have, if there's FL in the cell, turn it into Florida. If there's GA in the cell, turn it to Georgia. And so you have another in that same column, you can put that in there, because it will function here for everyone, even the ones that, because it only goes to this column there. So, and now you have all the states in full form there. So what I already mentioned is that we have 3 columns with zip codes, and 1 column, AJ, actually has words and numbers. So let's tackle that. And you guessed it, we will add another column and then combine this with an ifs function. So the ifs function evaluates multiple conditions and returns a value that corresponds with the first true condition. It looks more complicated than it actually is. So we evaluate each zip code column and then do something with it. So the formula is all in this all zip column, AL column, and it looks at AH, that's this one. If it's larger or greater than 0, use what's in the column, otherwise ignore. If AJ37, that's the one where we have the second word of the two-word states in there from our previous split. But if it's a zip code or if it's numbers, then use that number here. Yeah. And then if the AK37 or AK37 here is greater than 0, use that. And that gives us the full zip code for all the entries. Yeah, if we copy that over to all that, we kind of summarize that in a different way. So, and now to final review, you want to see, so you're not getting confused and I don't get confused, I highlight the column with a different color. That is actually the one that I want to use for my data input. And to review it, I hide the columns, and then so I can see it. So because you have a multi-step kind of function from one thing to the next, do not delete those columns because some formula depend on something in that column or content in that column. So you can hide them, and then if you want to print stuff, print them out or something like that, or make a copy of it or something like that, you can unhide them and hide them. So when you import into a CRM, you use the full spreadsheet as a CSV file, and you will map up the columns with the data fields in your CRM. But if you have multiple zip code fields in the header, you don't know which one you want to use. So I give the one that I'm going to use one particular header, and I write that down. Here it's the all zip, and the state field will be populated from the state name column. So the address line 1 and the city, that's all clear, but for the city states, we have multiple columns of each. So that's that. So we were ready to import that. And now I have another use case for you. See if you have now maybe 60 or something people who want to be part of a crowdfunding campaign. And your system needs username and password for each of them, and you want to send it to them so they don't have to mess around with things right there in an email. So you could use the mail merge extension to Google Drive, but first you need to create a username from their data as well as a password. And we use 2 more functions. And this also shows you that you can daisy chain some of the functions. So for the username, we take the first letter of the first name and the 6 letters of the first 6 letters of the last name. So, and then combine it to 1. The combine it with 1 is happening with the concatenate function, and the first letter of the first name is a left function, kind of left first name 1 is the number of character. And the password, we just do random numbers that are created through that rand between function. Okay, let's see how that looks. So for the first one, it's concatenate left. D2 is where my first name is. That's a little bit further over there. And we do 1 letter of that. And then we use the F2 as the last name. We use the left 6 letters. How you do this is relatively, you can do the first 3 letters of the first name and the 3 letters of the last name. Yeah, how you mix and match them it's up to you, but it gives you something like that, the username there. And for the password, we use rand between, and because I want an 8-digit password, I say, give me a number between, was it 1,011,000, 1,100,000, well, 8 ones and between 8 ones and 8 nines. So I don't have to, and it creates a password for them. Or yeah. So, and now one last feature would be to see how you can then bulk copy all the cells into the other rows. Yeah. So when you hover over the little red square, not red, blue is this, hover over the little red square when you mark a cell, and then pull it down to the whole row, and it automatically replicates the formula And you can fill it up not only to 20, you can do it to 1,000, to 400, to 16,000, I hope. I haven't tried that yet, 16,000, that's my next goal. What you don't see on the screenshot is that there is, when you hover over the little blue square there, it shows you a very faint cross. And when that appears, you can drag it down and then kind of do that. Yeah, so how am I looking for time? I'm almost on the time. Yes. Is there anything else? Well, as I said, nptp.us/Pauli-tech-tips is the slide deck where you can go. And let's do Q&A.
Little quick boot camp in Google Sheets. That was fantastic. So if any of you have questions,
well, thank you.
You're welcome. If any of you have questions, you can put those in chat. I know obviously this is these presentations are pretty quick. Bobby has a question. Does Google Sheets have a special paste function where you can copy and paste it with values and not formulas?
Yes, it has plenty of paste functions. One of them I like very much is when you paste it from another sheet, you have a decision to take the values that you have right now at this time, this moment in time, or you can paste it from the other spreadsheet and it updates this spreadsheet when the other one updates. So it's kind of, you have the data connected. That really also works actually in Google Documents. So if you have a monthly report that you do and every month the graphic kind of changes, you can make the document that reports about it just copy paste the graph and link it to the spreadsheet, and that would work as well.
Great. And we have another one. Can you turn, oh, actually, do you have tips on how to automatically eliminate or hide empty cells?
Empty cells? Well, if you have empty rows, you can hide rows, I think. Yes, you can hide rows and you can hide columns. You cannot hide empty cells because then it kind of, it moves, right? So if you have in a row or in a column, top 10 and top 20, you cannot eliminate the 15 in between or the 5 in between, because you would delete either the rows of it, the whole rows, and then it doesn't work anymore. So yeah.
Lena asks, can you turn state names into standard abbreviations?
Yes, there is no function for that, but you can certainly do that switch exactly the other way around. I would not type it in yourself. Yeah, you could probably get it from another spreadsheet kind of thing. Yeah, and then concatenate that and into the formula. But it gets a little complicated, yeah. Most of the time, your CRM is actually doing that. If your CRM is connected with the USPS API, then no matter what you do on the address in the import thing, it will normally also convert it to a standardized USPS standardized address in your CRM. So yeah, I don't know how much time you want to spend on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of following on that switch, what's the difference between doing the switch function and doing a find and replace?
Well, you can do numbers to the, well, you need to do multiple steps on the switch. Yeah, you can only search for FL and then replace all Florida. Yeah, you can only do kind of, find all the GAs and then do, so it's a multi-step process when you do it and find and replace, because you can't say find FL or GA and replace it. Yeah. So that's why that is so interesting to do the switch for it.
And let's say Jane asks, if you're doing concatenating a spreadsheet, can you get rid of the useless columns, turning the result into usable columns and values, and then delete the columns you don't need? Not sure if she's clear with that, but.
Well, you can do this. I wouldn't recommend it because it's much more work than you would want. You just hide the column, yeah, if you need it for presentation or something like that. But you always have the original data there. I'm more like not deleting things so much.
Okay. Any other questions? We probably have like room for one or so more. And I don't know if there are any other, while we're waiting for a question, if there are any other tips that fall along this that you want to mention too, Jane.
So,
sorry, Birgit.
Yeah, and so I did, it might be 4 months ago, Eli also had a Second has a kind of a speed dating thing where it did a 5-minute Google Maps, yeah, and that also uses Google Sheets where you can put in all the addresses and then have them show up as a pin on the map. If you go to netsquared.org on the blog, you will see that part as well. It was another multi-speaker event, and it was really cool. And I actually do live demonstration, which I didn't do here because I knew better.
Yeah, less tech problems. And I don't know if there are any other final questions. Certainly, I put the link in chat, and I'll grab that again here for folks.
Yeah. Well, we are preparing a course for Google Sheets and all kind of different things. And yeah, that will start in January. If you are up for beta testing that, just leave your name and email address and we'll let you know in search of things. So if you're looking for that.
Yeah, and on that link, there is a form at the bottom that you can just fill in with your name and email at the end of our slides, that document, the link that I just shared.
That's what I meant, yeah.
And Charlie was asking if you had any other resources for learning the anatomy of each formula, the how to know what to put in each part. So
right, there are some, the Google documentation is fantastic. So in some of the slides with the formula where that has the expression of it, there's a link to the Google documentation, and there you can read up all about each formula, as well as seeing what's related formula, and also a list of quite a few formulas there.
that's great.
Yeah, so Marlene asked, do you recommend using Google Docs or is something else better? Well, it depends on your skill set and on how much you want to share things. Google Docs is really good in sharing things, collaborating on things, and not losing things when somebody overwrites stuff. Google for nonprofits is free through TechSoup, so that's definitely a plus on that. And I really, especially when you have remote teams, something like Google Drive or Google Docs is definitely better than switching for different files from Excel that you kind of need to version control them a bit to know which is the latest one when you work in a team.